Forks. This is the time and place for the Growth Fund Committee meeting. Item 1, I'm sure, is roll calls.
Carreri?
Here.
Dockler? Holst?
Here.
Kavami?
Here.
Weber?
Here.
Whitney? And Wolf.
Here.
Oh,
There we go.
thank
Good.
you. And Wolf. And
Very
we
good.
And we have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Thank you, Katie. And I think this will work even better if I have my microphone on, so thanks, sir. Next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes from the November 15th Growth Fund Committee meeting.
So moved.
Got a motion, second from Mr. Kavami. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item 3, revised FlexPace daycare request, Hopeful Beginnings. Mr. Conlon.
Good afternoon. You may recall back in September of 2021, this project was before you, standard FlexPace daycare program project. Between that time in early October and very recently at the end of February, when the project was ready to move to permanent financing, in those intervening months, interest rates went up about 1.25%. So nothing else in the project is changing. Scope is the same, security is the same, all that. Just the increased buy down amount, we have to come back and ask for that. So happy to stand for any questions.
Any concerns or questions from committee members?
Move approval.
Have a motion from Mr. Kavami,
Second.
second from Mr. Holt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and that motion passes. Thanks. Item 4, C-Run Loan Request Country Club, updated from February 24th. Mr. Hanson.
Chair Weber, members of the committee, before you is a C-Run loan request from the Grand Forks Country Club. And quickly, as a reminder, the Growth Fund and JDA made amendments to our revolving loan fund plan with the EDA in response to encouragement from them to amend our plan to kind of reduce our focus on negative COVID impact at this stage in our recovery from the pandemic and focus more on investments that support growth and future economic resiliency within our community and for businesses. I had talked with our EDA rep, and those were well received. And so the applicants before us today fit a little bit more in that vein on the economic resiliency and growth than just negative COVID impact. As far as the Grand Forks Country Club is concerned, I assume folks may be familiar with the Country Club, but they're located in Grand Forks County. They are not within city limits, but this fund is applicable to businesses within the county, so they are certainly eligible to receive financing. The Country Club provides outdoor pools, food and beverage, golf opportunities, various types of outdoor exercise and recreation, as well as facilities to host events. As a part of the pandemic, they've experienced quite a bit of growth, and they've been trying to play catch up a little bit with keeping up with that growth. And that growth means a lot more use of their facilities and a lot more maintenance required. So as a part of the financing, they're looking to purchase some Toro equipment for the facility, for their work crews specifically, and then some working capital funding as well to be able to hire on some additional seasonal staff. As far as the terms of the loan, they're requesting $84,560 in working capital and equipment at 1% interest with a 6-month deferral. The loan will be amortized over 60 months following deferment. The security includes a loan agreement, promissory note, security agreement, blanket UCC lien, as well as a purchase money security interest on the Toro equipment specifically. And like I said, as a quick reminder, some of the changes we made last at the previous meeting was to remove our March 1st, 2020 founded by date. So organizations had to be in existence before then. As well as removing that negative impact. With that, I'm happy to stand for any questions.
It's wonderful news that our changes were well received by the EDA, so I don't know that I'd heard that before, so great.
Sure.
Yes.
I should probably disclose I'm a member of the Country Club, so I don't know if I need to recuse myself probably from a vote
So I'll try to channel Mr. Gaustad here. Having announced that you have a potential conflict, it's actually up to the committee members then to decide, do we still respect your opinion and your involvement in the discussion, or do we think that your conflict rises to such a level? And so I'd be looking for a motion to allow Mr. Curry to continue despite a potential conflict, and then it would be up to us to vote up or down on that. If that's all right with you, Mr. Curry? Great.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion from Ms. Whitney.
I'll second the motion for further discussion, Mr. Kavami.
Very good. We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion or comments before we vote?
Yeah, I just would like to also disclose that I'm a member, so I don't know if I fall under the same motion.
Ms. Whitney, could we amend your motion to include both, Mr. Kavami?
Mr. Chair, you may, absolutely.
Very good. And with that, and no further discussion, all in favor?
Did you amend yours?
I will amend, I will amend my second.
Very good. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Hall. And so just a quick reminder, to vote in favor at this point would be to say that we would still welcome the input and the vote from these two members. A vote against would indicate that you would recuse them from further action. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Very good. Motion passes, and we'll move forward. Thanks for that information, gents.
Chair
Please go ahead.
Weber, members of the committee, one more note I'd like to make is that for the C-Run application process, Gregory Syrup with the North Dakota Small Business Development Center has been helping applicants. However, he does sit as the treasurer and secretary for the Grand Forks Country Club. And to clarify for everyone, he was not involved in any review of this application, nor was he involved in any supporting any applications that were reviewed during this same time, so as not to compete for funding. So just to clarify, he was not involved in the review process in any way.
It seems the country club has many members.
I'm feeling very left out in this
Yeah.
discussion now all of a sudden. The only clarification question I had on this one, Colin, was I think this is our first C7 that's come in front of 501c7. No restrictions on organizational type for this or anything like that?
No, and that was part of the initial discussion, was whether they'd be eligible, and they are eligible as a 501c7 not-for-profit organization.
Great. Otherwise, I was just going to say, I mean, I think it's great to give loans like this to keep up with growth. I mean, that's exciting for our region, so I would move approval.
We have a motion from Mr. Holt
I will second.
and a second from Ms. Whitney. Quick a question, and this would apply to much of the work done by the JDA. When the city is involved in the financing of any of these businesses, does that create any restrictions on their ability to later do business with the city?
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that question.
It may be a Mr. Gaustad, but Ms. Richards, you know these things as well, don't you? Yeah.
Well, I hope so. I had that same thought looking at today's city council agenda, because we have someone in our request pool today that will be potentially contracting with the city. I think Mr. Kavami raised this as an issue when we were talking about taking an ownership position. And, we've been in the position of debtor for many years, and it's never been an issue. I would assume that it will continue to not be an issue. We kind of agreed to address does it make a difference if we're in an ownership position? Well, we'll deal with that when the time comes, and so far that time hasn't come yet.
Very good, thanks. I just was hoping for that clarification. That helps. Of course, all of this would be dependent upon review of Mr. Gaustad anyway, so we can move forward. I hope someone will also mention to Mr. Gaustad that I did the motion right this time. On the
Duly noted.
And with that, unless there's any further comments or questions, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion passes. Next on the agenda, item 5, C-Run and Flex-Pace Loan Request, iSight RPV.
So
Mr. Hanson.
I'll preamble a little bit before I hand it off to Brandon. But what you'll see before you is kind of a more traditional EDA RLF loan in that there's a private lender involved. So Brandon will be presenting this as a package, but certainly if you have any C-Run specific questions, I'll be available as well. But I'll hand it off to Brandon for this item.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Henson. Mr. Bomback, I understand you've been very busy this weekend, so welcome to see you. Go ahead.
Brandon Bombach, Director of Business Development, non-member of the Country Club, in case anyone was curious. Work for the Grand Forks Region Economic Development Corporation. I'm excited to bring forward this application. As Colin mentioned, it's a blend of a couple different things. I'll make that clear. But excited because it's eyesight drone services. That's at the heart of one of the EDC's strategic focuses of support. I plan to run through much of the details here, including the financial numbers real quick before I introduce the company representatives to hear from them. A little less back and forth, and we can just jump right into questions. Eyesight RPV Services, or their DBA, Eyesight Drone Services, a professional group of unmanned aircraft pilots leading the drone service provider industry in areas such as wind turbine inspection, among others. They have a team of 22 commercial drones. Maybe that's changed by the time they get up to the microphone here. As they're growing really quickly, they've last year inspected, or I should qualify the number, I'll let them qualify, but a lot of wind turbines. Want to make sure I get that right. They've experienced a lot of growth. Last year was their largest year yet, and this year already sees to exceed that. So things are going extremely well for them. For this reason, they're in one of those really great places of needing to grow a little faster than what they can, and we've been working on pulling together a deal to do exactly that. They're approaching you today for both the FlexPace request on a participation from First State Bank and an additional gap finance request of the $200,000 through the C-Run program. On that, the total project is $528,000 or closer to $529,000, and so the interest subsidy program, the FlexPace, would apply to buy the interest rate down from 4.25% to 1% on a $125,000 note. That's First State Bank used those proceeds to purchase vehicles, pickup trucks, for the crew to get to site where they fly these drones. That loan request is just under $4,400 from the Growth Fund, which would leverage $8,100 from the Bank of North Dakota through that FlexPace program. The total loan to value on the entire project is 62%, which is a very secure position. In addition to this, there's a request for $200,000 to the C-Run program. Again, that's 1% money over the 84 months that's amortized with that 12-month deferral on the front end. All of this is secured in a number of different ways, including UCC filing. So in the case of the vehicles, that's a second filing or second to First State Bank on those assets, whereas the proceeds of the C-Run are primarily used for drone equipment. So that'd be in a first position, even a purchase money security interest, which is just a little more firm position. Beyond that, the organization, the company, is guaranteeing it, as well as Tommy Kenville as owner. So I just want to introduce both Tommy Kenville, who is one of the founders and CEO of the company, as well as Joey Schmidt, who's president of the company, just to come up and give a little narrative and answer any questions. I'll stand for questions at the end of this too.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Bombach. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome.
Chairman Weber and Commissioner, thank you for having us. I'm Tommy Kenville. I'm founder of this company and CEO. Joey runs it day to day, and I kind of make sure we can keep growing. So the COVID hit us. We lost $600,000 worth of international business on a $2 million company, and so we had to spend quite a bit of capital finding new business and buying trucks. The good news is we've been able to. We did a little bit better, but not by much. And then now last year we really grew, but took some capital. So Brandon, being a good sales guy, I hadn't thought about coming here, but he thought it was be okay for our company as well. So that's we're on a pretty fast growth pace. We're structured right. This will probably be the first non-bank money and not my own money. So I'm still putting mine in, but it's fun because we're growing. So I'd let Joey tell you about our number of employees because I have a hard time keeping track.
Thank you, Mr. Kenville, and congratulations on all the growth. Yes.
Chair Weber,
Please.
Commissioners, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Joey Schmidt, President, and I joined this team 2 years ago. I was acquired as a small business, was acquired out of Fargo and join the team. At that time, we had 12 pilots and 4 vehicles, and now we have 24 full-time employees, 10 contractors, and 15 vehicles to go complete these drone inspections across the nation. So last year, Brandon was alluding to it, we inspected almost 18,000 wind turbines just last year, 60,000 across the life of the company. And because of some of the international travel that got restricted, we lost that revenue source. And because of that, we were forced to pivot and diversify. And so with that, we diversified into trying to find more regional work and also the same repeating electrical distribution work. So we've pivoted into solar panel inspection, which is 1/3 of what the ask is for drones to complete those inspections. We've gone into wildfire management. We have a unique position at the company where all of our pilots are also manned pilots from the University of North Dakota. So we have extremely high level of airspace knowledge. So we utilize that with new aircraft to bolster our performance in the wildfire management area. And then we have other drones to just supplement those different industries. And in the area, we also use another drone to help with a drain tile company in the area. So we're trying to bolster, pivot, and look at how we can replace the revenue lost from the international work around here.
And then the one project that's coming up later that the lady here brought up, we bid on it last year and lost to some company in Canada, and apparently this year we're closer. So that's gotta come for approval, but we're thankful because when our guys are home, they can work in the neighborhood, you know, and we need that as a company and more work in the valley, so. I think that well covers it, and it's really been fun to keep all these young people in North Dakota, you know. I'm by far the old guy, so. Any questions, or? How many states have you flown? Flown in 40 states and 8 countries. Today we have at least 14 pilots in Texas and Oklahoma, maybe 18.
Yeah.
Got guys leaving tomorrow. We're going to the cities after this because we have offices. Our headquarters will always be here, and then we have Fargo, Watford City, and Minneapolis, and probably pretty soon Oklahoma City.
Thanks for that commitment to Grand Forks for your HQ, yes. And a lot of your business is focused on energy and ag, which are priorities for our economic development as well. I don't have any further questions. Anything? Yes, Mr.
More or less,
Sure.
more a comment than anything. One, Mr. Bombach, glad you're a good salesman. I mean, this fits exactly the profile for companies that we want to keep at Grand Forks, companies that, I mean, with the talent pipeline as well, you know, from getting kids from UND, whether they're from Grand Forks or not, then they get a job, local job, they stay here, raise their families here. I mean, it kind of feeds the whole pipeline for economic development. So I'm glad you guys are here. The one question I had is maybe more for Ms. Richards, or Colin, I guess, or anybody, but how much is in the C-Run bucket do we have for allocation still? So can we can still accommodate all of these requests and we're not pushing the limits or anything like that?
With the two that are before you today, we have, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, we're about 100,000?
108,000.
108,000 left available.
Okay, that would be my question. But yeah, Mr. Kenville, appreciate you guys just coming, appreciate everything you've done for the community, and yeah, keep it up.
Regarding Mr. Curry's last question, the clock is ticking on those dollars, so how much longer do we have to see all of that money go into circulation?
To get it obligated in the next couple months.
In the next couple of months. So these are also timely requests for us, yeah. Ms. Whitney, thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Mr. Kenville and Joey, thank you. Again, I think more of a comment. Thank you for your hard work. And I think this is a really good example of how COVID really can change a business, and this particular set of funding can help you do that. So I applaud your, vision there and hearing, Brandon's good sales job and having trust and faith in that as well. So thank you for your continued commitment to Grand Forks and the region, and looking at new and different ways to utilize the technology that you have been a leader in new and different ways in the energy and ag space. So really also looking forward to hearing how the wildfire application of drones is going to change your business as well. It opens up a different space. So thank you again. I think this is a great application.
Thanks, Ms. Whitney. Was that a motion then?
So moved.
We have a motion from Ms. Whitney. Mr. Kvamme?
Yeah, I'd just like to say this is like the perfect use of the C-Run, right? This is amazing. We're creating jobs. We're keeping you here, hopefully, right? So yeah, I would like to second.
We have a second from Mr. Kvamme. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thank you.
And of course, this will all be reviewed by the JDA on March 7th. Very good. Item 6, partial release of mortgage request on Northdale Oil. Mr. Conlon.
Good afternoon again. You may recall back in March of 2019, Eastdale LLC, which is Northdale Oil's real estate holding company, received what was at the time, and I think still the only rural flex space loan that we offered to that company at that time. At the time, it was our portion was a $65,000 and change loan to buy down the interest on the construction of a convenience store in Thompson, just on the east side of town there. At the time, we were secured by a mortgage and remain at this time secured by a mortgage on 2 lots, blocks 1 and 2, which I believe is on the visual on the attached to your staff report. As you can see in that visual, we are the convenience store and gas station was constructed entirely on block 1, which obviously then is where a vast majority of the secured value is. We are, under our current mortgage, secured against block 2 as well. They have requested that we release block 2 from our mortgage so that they can sell that off to a separate buyer for future development purposes. So I did break down the loan to value as it pertains to the estimated value of block 1, where the gas station is, where we would remain secured, and our loan to value, considering the value of block 2 being gone, as well as the commercial note being paid down to a certain degree, our loan to value is in a better position than when we originally approved the project. It was 78%, I believe, when we originally approved the project, and now we're at 75%. So happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments?
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Crary.
Second.
Second from Mr. Holt. We have a motion on the floor. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes. Thank you. Let me take a moment here. There was something I had meant to do at the beginning of the meeting. We have an additional agenda item to add, and we need a motion to allow that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Hoping for a motion to allow an additional agenda item.
Do we get to know what it is first?
Top secret. We can. It is related to the Tech Accelerator. There's been some changes related to CMAR, so there's an additional ask related.
Correct.
That needs to go.
As you well know, Mr. Holt, JLG has been the designer on this, and when the EDA, I think it was back in last July, when EDA actually approved going forward with our grant, the contract with JLG was expanded to add that EDA compliant design feature. What we're asking for now is to add construction management to that contract.
Well, I'll move to add the first guess. I'll move to add the agenda item to the agenda.
Great.
Thank you.
We have a motion, second for Mr. Kvamme. Motion on the floor. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thanks. So that motion passes. That'll be the new item 8. First, let's go to item 7, startup loan restructure request, an update of reconsideration for the Snack Shack. Mr. Conlon.
Very good. You'll remember back in November of 2021, we came before you with Mr. Holt, Jeff Holt from Snack Shack LLC, who holds I believe, roughly $18,000 startup Grand Forks loan with us. He experienced that damage to his trailer, rendering it inoperable for the immediate future, and was and is requesting deferral of that payment of that loan through June of this year, 2022. So first payment would start July of 2022, and then an extension of the term from 4 years to 5 years. So that was and remains his request. And November, we came forward with that request, and this body asked for an update and a deferral, and approved a deferral through January. So we are back to report that Mr. Holt continues to work through the insurance component of that project. He's had some difficulties getting a answer one way or the other from his insurance company as to what they will cover for the trailer. He has, however, secured and has placed an order for a replacement trailer frame with a company out of South Dakota, and is in the queue to have that produced. Anticipates receiving that trailer, having his existing infrastructure that remains functional installed on that new trailer, and anticipates being fully operable again by May of this year. So sticking it with his original request, that fits in nicely with his existing timeline for becoming operational again. With, again, that first payment in July and then a 5-year term to follow.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. And Mr. Holt is not able to be here with us today?
He planned to be here. He had a conflict pop up this afternoon, so wasn't able to be here today.
Can you give us a little more information on the delay with the insurance company? Do you know anything further?
So my understanding is that he's worked with his local agent to no avail, and has been trying to get a hold of the national company that he works with. Getting, as he explains it, sort of the runaround a little bit from them as to, maybe they will, maybe they won't, pay his claim. He continues to work with them, and I believe has reached out to the North Dakota Insurance Commissioner to see if he can intervene to help get him an answer. So he has put in a request there. Continues to try and explore all avenues he can on that front, but just hasn't reached a resolution on that front yet. But he has, regardless, he wanted to communicate and evidenced by his placement of an order for a new trailer that he does still intend to move this forward and get operational insurance money or not, so.
And our options today are, could you summarize our options?
Well, I mean, you have endless options, I guess, but the recommendation today is, the recommendation today and what we're, is essentially his original request of deferring the loan again till the end of June, and then adding a year to the term over 5 years. So that's what we're bringing forward today. If you wanted to have a check-in before then or after then or on an ongoing basis, we can certainly do that. Really in that regard, like I said, you have endless options, but that's what we're bringing forward today.
I like your expansive, optimistic attitude that there are always options, and I agree with you. But essentially, we could approve this with some possible other checks, or to turn it down at this point would essentially result in a default.
Correct. Yeah. We could call the loan, or say he's in default and go through our, as spelled out in the loan agreement, the default options there. This is, as outlined, I think, in the first staff report back in November, this was, I think, one of the last loans that was secured only against, unsecured essentially as a promissory note in the loan agreement with Snack Shack LLC. No guarantees or anything beyond that. We didn't at that time take UCC liens against equipment or business assets, so it is quite unsecured. But that is, like I said, that's an option.
Very good. Mr. Curry, please.
Two things. One, I'm positive is that he got it removed off of the road.
Yes.
So that was a big win, at least from public safety, especially with the amount of snow we've had this year. That could have really been a nightmare. So one, I appreciate him at least, getting taken care of that, which was a nightmare. But really, I think the deciding factor, one, with a limited amount of options for repayment, right? Of course, you want to, if it's not really secured, well, we're kind of sitting there holding the bag anyway. And had he not, made that order for another trailer, I think that'd be a lot different conversation. But I think the intention is there at least. Which, if that's the case, then I'm more than comfortable. It's unfortunate it's dragged out this long, but with supply chain stuff, with insurance, we've all kind of probably been there before. So I definitely would like to see, though, by that May, maybe at least get an update then if that's when his anticipated being up and running. At least by then he should have a trailer in hand, at least fitting it up. So I'd like to at least see that at a minimum. I wouldn't necessarily make it contingent, but Those are my 2 cents, if anyone wants to.
We could certainly have that as not, if something changes between now and then where, maybe the trailer's delayed or plans have changed, if conditions as approved tonight change, we can certainly come back and say, let you know, here's what's changed. Do you still want to move down this path? We can certainly do that.
I don't want to rush the conversation, but that sort of sounded like a motion. Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, can we?
Mr. Holt, please.
So it seems like a lot of the success of this new plan hinges on the successful completion of the trailer and getting back up and running. And, it says he's ordered a new frame here. I guess my first question is, do you have confirmation that the frame has been ordered, or is it word of mouth? I mean,
No,
because
he had given it to me in an email. I asked for at least it in writing that he has placed an order, so I do have that. I haven't followed up with the company or anything like that to confirm that that's been placed. Like I said, I have an email from Jeff, and I've talked to him on the phone, and
I just think even a receipt of that, like, what I don't want to do is be back here in May and then find out that the frame got ordered 2 months late or something like that. Now, I don't want to, if we're delaying this, if we're deferring this until June, I don't want to meet in June and say 1 more month or,
right.
So whatever we can do to just confirm that. I understand that, Mr. Curry's point, supply chain stuff, there's some things that are out of his control, but I think one thing that we can check is just to ensure that the frame has been ordered.
Sure. Yep, I can definitely ask for something like that from him.
Thank you, Mr. Holt. And this is Jeffrey Holt Jeff Holt is the owner of Snack Shack. Thanks. Mr. Kavami.
So one question, so we're restructuring the loan from 4 to 5 years. That's his request, right? So
Correct.
if we're restructuring it, can't we get a UCC against his equipment?
We certainly could.
I mean, I feel like if we just say, hey, I'd like to see, I'm assuming that this lapsed in January and he hasn't paid January, February.
Correct, yep.
Correct, right?
Yep.
So happy to go there. We need to see an invoice for the trailer or a purchase agreement or whatever,
Sure,
right?
okay.
And then let's do a UCC, right? And we'll go from 4 to 5 years. We'll make it more affordable for you. And then if he doesn't like it, where are we at? We're at the same place we're at now, right? But I just think there's some accountability on his end. If he's asking us to change the terms, I feel like there should be some sort of give and take.
Sure. Yep, I can definitely relay that.
So that would be my motion, would be to approve it with those conditions.
I'd second that.
We have a motion and a second. And the confirmation that the trailer's been ordered, that could be provided between now and March 7th with JDA?
Yeah, sure. I can reach out to him and see if that's a possibility.
So the
sure.
JDA would know about our recommendation?
Even if not, they would know for sure your recommendation that we want to see a purchase order and take a UCC on business assets, that we can certainly relay. Even if between now and then he's not able to get a purchase agreement, we can still, make sure that before we change anything in your terms, that's a criteria that needs to be met. So.
Ms. Whitney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with everything that my fellow members have said. Those were actually items on my checklist as I'm sitting here I was going to mention, so I think we're channeling each other here. The other thing I would just ask is, in addition to, could we also restructure in here, given that this seems to be a potential high-risk option, could we also build in that we want a quarterly check-in, at least with city staff, that gets reported to us? I'm a little concerned that, he's not here. I understand there's conflicts that come up, but I just wonder if some structured check-ins might be also, if this moves forward, when we get the documentation that we've asked for.
Yeah, I mean, we can, as I kind of look at it, and what I think I'm hearing from everyone is that, assuming we can get the purchase order piece, as well as the security piece, if anything between now and June, which would give us about that quarter, if anything should shift between now and then, we'll certainly come back and let you know on that front, or if any of these criteria aren't met, obviously that's a different conversation. And then in between that time and then the next quarterly update, we'll have 3 months of hopefully payments and a timely update. So hopefully if we're at that phase, we can certainly, and we'll be checking in as we do with staff to make sure that we're getting our payments and stuff. And if we're not, then we'll certainly come back and again, a different conversation at that time.
I appreciate the quarterly check-in idea. I believe that Mr. Holt was looking for that next check-in to be May rather than June. Is that, do you care if it's May or June?
I don't. And actually, the comment that I was going to make, I know it's Kyle's motion, but I mean, in terms of like the purchase agreement, I don't have a need to have that be a part of the public record. Like frankly, you getting confirmation of that and reporting back to us is fine.
Sure.
You know, again, I just, and it can be a confirmation email, whatever you need to satisfy that and report back to us is fine by me.
I would modify my motion to state those words.
Okay. And does anyone else care if it's May or June? No. Okay. You've said June. We'll go along with that. It's been a good discussion. Anything further? We do have a motion on the floor. If there's nothing further, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion passes. New agenda item 8, we'll call it the JLG CMAR addendum.
Correct. As I mentioned earlier, this was just kind of discussed as something that would be coming when their contract was previously amended to add the EDA redesign, and work is about to start on the project, and so I just, to make sure that this body gets to make a recommendation before it goes to JDA, I'd like to add that with the staff recommendation to amend the contract to add an extra $52,000 to provide construction management through September when completion is anticipated.
So it feels like two issues here. There's the $52,000 change in the price tag, but also the addition of the CMAR aspect. Had that always been part of the conversation?
Well, it isn't construction management at risk. It's just construction management of the normal contract that has been, well, actually 3 contracts that have been awarded now.
So I was mistaken in saying CMAR, but this is a construction management issue which results in a $52,000 increase.
Correct.
Any questions, Mr. Kavami,
Is this
please?
construction administration, and maybe you might be able to, versus construction management, or is this for JLG, or is this for a contractor? Is this for?
No, this is for JLG to provide additional management services through the construction period rather than just, you know, their original contract was to help us do the design. We amended that to make it EDA approvable plans and specs. Once we actually got bids and have moved to award, now it's a real project, and we would like JLG to help us manage the project as it goes through construction.
Is there maybe somebody that could speak to that a little bit?
So what I was going to say is no, because I work in business development at JLG, so I actually don't know. This is the first I've heard of it, was today. So I was going to first announce that, and second announce that I do clearly have a conflict with this. So we would probably go through the same process. And I would lean towards not voting on it if we have a quorum without that, because it is directly to JLG.
Correct.
Unfortunately, and I'm sorry, Kyle, I don't have more context to provide on it because I just haven't been involved in the project.
I've got the staff report and it was to this group on July 26th of last year. It was kind of an update on what was happening with the accelerator, and then professional services agreement approval, which was to add that extra level of design to make it a, federally funded project. And so it was discussed at that point.
Could we move to, I'm going to move to allow community member Holt to participate? Is that the correct way?
I think.
Right, because then we vote against it, correct? Right, that's the way, if we want to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would like to move to allow Jonathan to vote for this project and to be involved.
We have a motion from Mr. Kavami.
So I just want to clarify, but then mainly for his perspective. If I was in that situation, I wouldn't want to vote.
Yes, so
Even
we're
though,
gonna
although I
vote-
don't
we're gonna
think
vote
he
it-
would be biased at all.
No,
But so I need to second that, so then we can vote the denial of.
Exactly.
Okay, so then I will second Mr. Kavami's vote. That's kind of confusing.
Yeah. Very good. I think Dan would really be proud of us right now.
Yes, yeah.
He's either very proud or he has his head in his hand somewhere, really.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the current motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify, and a vote in favor suggests that Mr. Holt would still be included in the conversation and have a vote. Well, you can still be included in the conversation, you just wouldn't have a vote. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, same sign?
Aye.
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 So Mr. Holt will not be, is recused from voting on this issue.
Perfect.
And with that, any further discussion about the agenda item?
Yeah, so I do have a question. So, not to go crazy, but so North Dakota Century Code precludes the same entity from being a construction manager as as an architect. So that's why I specifically asked versus construction administration versus construction management. So I want to make sure that we're not going down the path where we're breaking the law. So,
Yes, construction administration is the more accurate term.
okay. So no, there won't be any contracts held by JLG for construction work.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay. I'll move approval.
We have a motion from Mr. Kavami,
Second.
second from Mr. Crary, and thanks for that clarification, because I had taken us down the wrong path. With a motion on the floor, are there any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion passes. And I believe that concludes our business today. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Motion from Mr. Kavami, second from Mr. Holt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned. Thanks.
Thank you.